Lloydminster's land use bylaw, which has been the subject of public criticism, has finished its first draft of the bylaw. Lloyd has been working on this document since September of last year, and the over 250-page document covers multiple aspects of land use in Lloydminster for the present and for years to come. Despite a first draft being brought forward, the bylaw is far from finished.
We've created communities, we've created subdivisions the same way for years, where you start with multifamily and then you work into entry-level homes, and as you go further in, the houses get more expensive, bigger, things like that. And we still have that option to have multifamily and single-family homes. And I think we need to stay that way. I don't think we need to be mixing in multifamily with single-family homes and things like that. So those are some of the concerns that the community has.
Administration has referred to the bylaw as a living document with the intentions of changes to be made even after it's passed.
But right now, we're not short on land. We're not scarce on land. We're not scarce on lots. We've got lots ready to go that can be purchased and people can start building on. And we need to really look at what we have and not worry about what's going to happen 20 years from now, but take a look at what the community is looking for now. And right now, what the community is really looking for, they can get.
The land use bylaw will return to council on September 9th for an official first reading, and a public hearing is planned for October 7th. A fire broke out at Spiros restaurant recently, and Arlene Hoffert has more on the events of the fire and how the restaurant was saved.
It was supposed to be a relaxing day off for Spiros restaurant owner Maria Kokonis, until she received an urgent call early in the morning about a fire that had broken out in Spiros' kitchen.
I will say, when I pulled up here and I saw like the fire trucks and the police cars, and they were all in formation, and you know, the firefighters actually were in the building already, and they had their hoses, and I was pulling up to the scene of the fire, and it was really quite a shock, I think, to my soul.
The fire could have been much worse had it not been for an unlikely hero who arrived at just the right time and swiftly took action, calling 911 as well as Kokonis and staying at the scene.
It was caught by a Cisco driver who dropped our product off at 7 a.m. He was sitting outside by the curb just waiting to see what his next move was going to be. Do I drop the stock or do I take off with the stock? And so I hugged that man several times. I'm sure he's staying away now because he's like, that lady was weird.
Thanks to the help and support from the people of Lloydminster, Spiros was able to be open and running at 4 o'clock the day after the fire.
You know, the fire was one thing, but having the community of Lloydminster step up and just know that we are loved, know that we are wanted, and know that, you know, it's important that we are up and running was just something that still makes my heart skip a beat. I will be eternally grateful for this community and for the love that they've given us. It's tremendous.
Kokonis says there is still work to be done in getting Spiros back to its pre-fire form, but that the incident could have been a lot worse without the help of members of the community. Lane Hoffert, Primetime Local News.
The Lloydminster and Vermilion for Equity Foundation is excited to see its community garden growing. Leanne Sanders sat down with a spokesperson about the garden.
I am here speaking today with Brittany from the Lloydminster and Vermilion Equity Foundation, and we are talking about the community garden. I'm always excited when I hear about community gardens, even though I've never taken part in one. I think they're a fabulous idea. So what can you tell me about the garden right now? What's happening?
So we are at the growing stage. We had some diligent volunteers help us get the land ready. They had to till, spread soil, and plant the seeds. And now we're seeing things pop up. We have a ton of tomatoes, and a variety of other, mostly edible plants, to target food insecurity in our community. We have some volunteers that tend the garden and weed it. And it's for everybody. So if anybody walking by wants to go and pick something and take it home and eat it, cook it with it, yeah, the more the merrier. It is located at 4803 54th Street, kind of by the Civic Center. And our goal with it is to, again, help target food insecurity. And then also what we grow and harvest, we can also put into the meals that we cook on Sundays for street team. We also would like to possibly look into a canning initiative to make our harvest stretch. But yeah.
That would be an excellent idea as well. Definitely making those things last longer, like tomatoes and pickles and those types of things. It's just very exciting. Was the land donated, or how did you guys go about procuring that piece of land to do the garden?
So we're actually working with the city. We're leasing the land from them. Yeah, so we got to work with the city and they were helpful with us finding a place that we could start this.
So with the volunteers, did they know much about gardening beforehand? Did some of them have some experience, or is it all people that are just learning?
It's kind of a mix of both. I know me personally, my gardening is experimental completely. Um, and same with a few of us, but then a few of our other volunteers really stepped up and took the reins and they really know what they're doing. So we're really appreciative of all their hard work and stepping up. And so lending a hand so we could make this happen.
Brittany, do you know if you guys did take that further step of doing some canning, you would need a kitchen to do that. Would you have adequate space or a space to do that?
Yeah, actually, the Friendship Center so graciously lets us use their kitchen already because we're feeding 70 to 100 people twice a week. So we definitely needed a space to do that. And so the Friendship Center does allow us to use their space.
Okay, excellent. Well, I would like to hear more about that as we get closer. If you guys do decide to go that route with the canning, I'd love to see it and take part in that. So thanks very much for your time today and good luck with everything. And hopefully you guys get a big harvest.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Mediation and collaboration are two different ways to deal with separation and divorce. Stacey Comer finds out more about them and how they differ.
Stephanie Dobson is here with us once again this week. Stephanie is a lawyer, mediator, and online educator with Hankin Divorce Law and Mediation offices in Edmonton and Lloydminster. Stephanie, thank you for joining me.
Thanks again, Stacey.
Today, we are talking about mediation and collaborative processes, basically where and how they are different. So let's first of all start off by talking, what's divorce mediation?
So good question. They're very similar processes in that both of them keep parties out of court, but divorce mediation is a process where one neutral mediator, so a neutral professional, helps divorcing couples work through their issues and reach agreements. And again, it's outside of the courtroom, so there's various aspects of divorce like division of assets, parenting, and the finances. The mediator will help to facilitate communication and negotiation between the spouses to resolve things as amicably as possible and to reach mutually acceptable resolutions. So in this process, parties may have their lawyers with them, or they may decide that their lawyers are not necessary during the process. In essence, it's a four-step process, and this is similar with mediation and collaborative. So the first step is the initial consultation. The second step is a series of joint three-way meetings with the mediator and both spouses to resolve everything. Then there's a final separation agreement drafted, and then fourth, each spouse will meet with their own lawyer to get independent legal advice on that mediated agreement.
Okay, and what is collaborative divorce?
So it's similar to mediation in that it's a process that focuses on finding resolution to issues outside of the courtroom in a way that works for both parties. But it's a negotiation process where each spouse will hire a specially trained lawyer called a collaborative lawyer who will assist them to resolve their issues cooperatively with a focus on the needs and interests of their family. So parties will work together as allies rather than adversaries. And the difference here between mediation, remember mediation is with that one neutral third party. In this one, in collaborative divorce, you each have your lawyer right next to you as your advocate throughout the whole process. So in the end, you're committing to achieving resolution in both mediation and collaborative without any court intervention.
So how do people know, Stephanie, if mediation or the collaborative process is the right one for them?
Well, first and foremost, what we're trying to do is to avoid the court deciding the party's future. So in all of those aspects with respect to separation and divorce. So that's the first key. The next one is my children's needs are my priority. Third, I want to focus on the future. I want to reduce conflict and improve communication. These all sound really good. And I want quick and efficient resolution. So I usually estimate somewhere between 2 to 6 months is the typical timeline for resolving with either mediation or the collaborative process. But some of the differences in mediation, often mediation is without their lawyer, so you have to feel really comfortable negotiating on your own with the help of the mediator, engaging only one professional. Of course, it does keep costs lower, but you have to be really comfortable negotiating on your own. Now, with the collaborative process, yes, you want to keep costs to stay as low as possible. But the reason that we keep costs low is by negotiating directly in four-way meetings. So instead of in the traditional legal process, lawyers would either engage through the court process or they would engage by letter writing back and forth. In the collaborative process, we're always in those four-way meetings. So we're trying to keep that communication direct between the parties.
So if people decide that one of these processes happen to be the right thing for them, what is the next step?
Well, I certainly recommend that parties do their research first. So first of all, of course, this episode can be very helpful, but certainly go ahead and have a look on our website at Henka Divorce, HENKA divorce.ca to learn more. You can always call our office to talk to our team about the options. We will first schedule you in for a free 5-minute call with me directly to learn a little bit more about these processes. Lots of people call in and they have no idea. So we'd like to take that few minutes to go through that. And then, of course, the booking of an initial consultation is really where we dive deep into the issues.
All right, Stephanie. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and we will chat with you again next week.
Thanks, Stacey.
And that's all for news. Sports is next, but first, here's a look at your closing market.
Today's oil prices are brought to you by First General Services.
The CPCA season is in its final stretch as the CPCA finals take place here in Lloydminster until Championship Sunday, where a new CPCA champion will be crowned. And I talked to the CPCA radio host to learn more. We're here at Halstead Downs, the site for the CPCA finals, the final 5 days of racing for the CPCA season. I'm joined here by Brinley Hassan, as always, the CPCA radio host. So thanks so much for joining me today, Brinley.
Hey Thomas, thank you for having me.
So after a long few months here in the summer, we are down to the final few races, and a few guys are sitting at the top, including Logan Gorse very comfortably in first, and as well, we've got a few other guys that are really up there. So how are the standings looking, especially now that those final 4 spots are where everybody's hoping to be with only 5 days of racing left?
Yeah, so we got 4 days left until the redraw, which is kind of these guys' last punch at things. Dallas Dick is sitting 5th right now with 917 points, so he could make a move on Colby Stanley. He really they were up there. They were about 4 points apart up until Sunday last weekend, where Dallas hit a barrel and knocked himself back a bit. But that can happen just as quickly the other way around, right? wagon racing is really kind of volatile, and these guys can move around in standings really fast.
And so Brad McMahon is just sitting on the outside looking in there at 6th with 888.5 points. Just what are we looking for him? Is he a little bit too far out to try and grab it there in the final 4 days, or any of those other drivers that are a little bit further behind than him?
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 54 or 55 point gap on Colby Stanley in that 4th place spot, so it's going to be really, really tricky for him to inch in there. I mean, it is possible. You never know what's going to happen. Dallas could really mess up, and so could Colby. You just don't know. So it is possible for Brad. He is kind of the next guy in line, but it would be really tricky at this point.
And so we mentioned a little bit earlier, Logan Gore sitting well ahead, over 100 points ahead of 2nd place and 3rd place, who are very close as well with Danny Ringette and DJ King. How important, though, when we get to that final race on Championship Sunday, is having the barrel draw and being able to choose your barrel for those final few races?
I mean, it really depends on the guy. We've seen DJ King outrun guys off the 3-barrel, but ideally everybody wants the money barrel. They want barrel number 1, right? So putting yourself ahead like that, it kind of guarantees, especially like a guy like Logan Gorst, he's got really, really punchy teams that can go off the 1 and really outrun anyone. So for him, that's going to be a huge advantage, I think.
And so finally, we had the races this past week at Pine Lake. Just how are drivers looking there, as it's very important to see them in that final few races before this finals here, and who are really standouts at Pine Lake?
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of like I touched on a minute ago, but Dallas Dick in the last day, he ended up taking a barrel, which kind of shot him back a little bit. Him and Colby were really, really tight back and forth, going 5 and 4 points in between each other. So it was really close contention for that number 4 spot. And then on that last day, Dallas really bumped himself back. Brad had a really tricky run as well. He ended up with a no time, which is, you know, never ever what you want, but that's kind of what the cards were for him. So he's going to take it and kind of try and jump back as good as possible.
All right, well, it's certainly a lot of great storylines heading into these final few days here at the CPCA. Thank you so much for joining me once again, Brinley, and be sure to be down here at Halstead Downs every night for the final few races here for the CPCA. And now we will take a look at your cute pet pictures with our pets of the day.
We want to see your pets. Send photos of your pet and their name to have them featured on Pet of the Day.
Now we're going to just take a quick look at your upcoming 3-day forecast for tomorrow. It's going to be quite pleasant with plenty of sun, a high of 26 degrees, though it will get a little cooler down to a low of 11. Friday, it'll still be 26, plenty of sunshine, a little bit with some patchy clouds. Then we'll cool off a little bit to 20 degrees on Saturday. And thank you for watching Primetime Local News. My name is Thomas Wildman, and have a wonderful rest of your day.